I think I've opened SQL Server, right? Yeah. So this part focus. Which part? Right side part. Where is our diagram? I think I closed it. Let me open again. This part. Okay. So going here, and if you want, you can create repository layer, etc. here also. No problem. Absolutely fine. So go for one layer at least. Right click, add new project. This time it is a class library, not a service anymore. So library and class library with the .NET Core, and I will do it as web API. No, I will name exactly like our necessity. It is a reservation oriented repository, so I will say reservation repository. All right, I will keep this so that so this will be our data access layer. Okay, and inside this we will create 2-3 more folders. One will be for repository, one will be for abstract, and one will be for models. Depends. Sometimes you may plan for one more layer. Model layer will be separate library, and this will be separate library. Depends. So currently, imagine we are working with two-tier architecture. One is MVC layer, one is a repository layer. So here you go, create one function just like we do in MVC. I mean class, and I will name it as something other than what you have taken as so far. So should I name it as RES service, reservation service repository. And in abstract, I will create one interface. RES service repository. All right. Everywhere by default it is giving internal. If you are working with multi-tier architecture, then you must do public. Otherwise it will not be available to other assembly. Okay. So made it public. And I implemented this also into repository. These things you know already. I don't think any problem you will face. Already in MVC you know all these things. Now here we will plan something. For example, suppose user says, go to this diagram every time you are planning something. Achha, it is open already. User says, bhai, I will send you one PNR number. You check the status in the database, your database, and give me back a reservation status. That become a service function. Or user will say, okay, one new user wants to book a ticket. He filled the form, he submitted. Take all those data, save into your database, and finally return one error, information message saying that why your booking has been confirmed and this is your transaction ID, something like that. So some input, some output. So think this skeletal structure of the function as per your input and output. So imagine my input will be PNR number and my output should be, means my information should be something like, date of travel, PNR number, reservation status information, something like 2-3 information I want to return back. Then I have to prepare my model class accordingly. So I went to model and I create a model class called uh, response information. Okay, I created a class called response information. Public. What response information? Now I am giving you PNR number. I have one website, you have one service. So I gave you PNR number. You check in your database and give me back one object of response info. So in this response info, what should we keep? Some property, public integer or public string. Okay, I will keep it as, since it is not for DB set, so not necessary to keep one primary key or anything. I can say string error response code I will take. Okay, get set. A response message I will take. Public string response message. Okay, get set. Like response code 1, response message reservation confirmed. Response code 2, response message becomes uh, waiting list going on, something like that. Okay, you can plan anything. And one more I will put something like um, travel date. I will say date time, travel date. What I will say, travel date, get set. Or you can do one more thing also. Somebody says these two things will be necessary for every class, every response class. Then I can plan like this also. I can put a base class just like this. You know, I can have a parent class. I will say response base. Absolutely fine. Response base. So this one also I will make public. You know object oriented programming, so nobody need to advise you, you are already masters. So put it here and then inherit it, so that no need to put in every response class that code and message. Specifically for this class, whatever extra thing you need, you just put it. So travel date I need PNR number, public string, PNR number. Then I may put something like public string RES reservation. I'm writing short form RES, status, get set. Absolutely fine. Now this is as per your view model. Response info is one of your view model. But now think about the table and your model class, because you are also using entity framework here, right? So table and model class also you have to think about. So here I will go and create one more folder. I will name it as entity models. Entity model is that model which is generating the table in your code first approach entity framework. So here I will put one class named as reservation or rail reservation, something like that. Now this class, when you are preparing, you have to plan as per your actual table structure. That means in the table, what are the information you want to keep. So this can be your DB set related entity class. So I will say table. Currently, you know, I have given the name as rail reservation, but always I suggest your table name should be plural, right? So here I can say rail reservations, and inside this we can have proper primary key and other things. So should I say integer res id, reservation id, get set, and this one as a key, control dot primary key. Then we'll go for uh, sorry, s has to be added, yeah. So public, should we go for these two things have to come also here. Which one? This one. What is the travel date? What will be the PNR number? What is the reservation status? Just take one example. In real case it may be 10 different columns. I'm just taking 3-4 columns for example purpose. So this is my primary key, which will increment 1 2 3 4 5, and this is travel date, this is PNR number, and this is the reservation status, like that. If somebody says no, one PNR number can have multiple members also, then go for another class and put a list of that class here. Currently I'm making it simple, business wise, not making it much complicated, because our focus is to understand web API. So I did something, that means some database communication infrastructure I prepared, right? So for communication purpose, either insert operation or delete operation or fetch and display operation, something you do, because every web API methodology will take some input and give some output. That's it. So our main intention here is business logic may be anything. Currently we are planning, take the PNR number, give me back reservation status. Tomorrow it may be something else, doesn't matter. But what is the way of developing web API, and what is the way of testing it, and what is the way of consuming it, that is more important for us. So I'm not taking 10 or 20 columns and so on. I'm just taking 3 to 4 columns to make it very simple. Okay. Functionality, at least infrastructure will make, then we'll go for the entity framework mapping. After that we'll go back to our controller level and then do the stuff. So MVC is the general methodology for application architecture, that is also followed up here in web API, but service oriented architecture is one of the additional architecture here. That means MVC as a patterns and practices, service oriented architecture as a architecture. So both of these combined together, it forms web API, and protocol called HTTP, it will help in order to transport the data between consumer to service, service to consumer in the form of JSON. Okay, so here you go, you have to implement that functionality what we are planning for. So public, not public, this is interface. So you have to say whatever you are going to return. Suppose I want to return one response info. Okay, so response info will be used here, so that I will get all those information in my screen. And method name, this is called web method. Okay, whichever method or function you are using, that is called web method. So web method, suppose I want to have get PNR status. Okay, get PNR status, within bracket always input. In our case, input is what? PNR number, which is a string, I think. So PNR, check it out whether string or integer. We have taken string. Okay, so I assume that sometimes it becomes like this now, PNR 1 2 3 4 5. So I took string, not pure integer, but if you feel integer is applicable, you can take integer also. So I asked, please send me PNR number as input. I will return you object of this response info as output. If only one message to be returned back, you can have string also, who cares? Okay, there is nothing special attention here. Already you know from console application also how to return output, how to take input for a methodology. If an interface also you know how to implement, so go here and implement it. So if you see here, it has to be implemented. So it will show error, then you come here and you say implement interface, so that error will go. Now here you have to plan business functionality. To avoid the error, just create one object and return it. Later on you think what to do, what not to do. So response info and then say return RESP. Now you think what exactly my consumer is going to send. that is PNR number, and what exactly I am going to reply back to my consumer. This is called service method or web method. This interface is called service contract. This is called service class. This is called service method. All are service, service, service. Okay. Now come to your business functionality. That means what exactly it is taking, what exactly it is returning. Chalo, let's build it once and then go for entity framework formality. I have not written even a single line of the code, just prepare the architectural infrastructure. Okay, I just prepared the architectural infrastructure for handling the web API. Now I have to go for entity framework stuff. Not necessarily always you will use entity framework. Sometimes it may be edu.net also. Sometimes nothing also. Imagine one hard-coded data you are returning, right? Then why should we connect to database? It can be hard-coded data returned back also. But rare case you will get hard-coded data. It will definitely communicate with some database. So let's go for adding those, what do you say, libraries. So add those libraries here. Entity framework core. Yeah. Long-term support and latest. Stable as well as long-term support. 6.11 as of now. You never know tomorrow what will happen. Okay. Always remember long-term support and latest with stable, whichever it is that you have to always use. Done. All three done. Now build it once more. Now go ahead and make the respective DB sets. So here you go. It is related to railway. So I will say railway context. As per our entity framework rule, it should be inherited from DB set. Sorry, DB context. DB, not BD. Now connection string, I will copy paste from our existing solution. And I will change the name of the DB. W web API, I will start with web API underscore reservation or something. Other things is fine. I'll prepare a DB set here. So public DB set, our class name is real reservation. Real reservations get set. Mostly it gives the IntelliSense instruction. You can take it directly. Now go to your repository class, right? This is your repository class. Now you have to plan out something. So try catch. Don't forget this. So now what we are doing is you are going to create the object of context class and then going to call it. So what is my class name? Railway context. So this is your repository. Create the object here. Okay, you guys also practice, huh? Without practice, these things will look easy, but not that easy. Okay, so now here you go, and you have to communicate with the DB set always. So you are sending PNR as the my DB set name is real reservations dot first or default st such that st dot PNR number equal to PNR, but both should be string. This also should be string, this also should be string, otherwise it will show error. Alright, so this gave me status, that means that object, whole object where it is matching. Now out of that object I have to prepare something, isn't it? So what to prepare? View model. So which is my view model class name? Response info, isn't it? So I have to prepare PNR number, reservation status, and some code and message, something like that. 4 things you have to return back to the consumer. So do that. So here you go and say if status not equal to null. What is the static status? If status not equal to null, then can you please already have created object na? So can I say resp dot PNR number equal to PNR, resp dot something like response message or reservation status equal to whatever just now came, status dot reservation status and resp dot, sometime I will teach you auto mapper so that it will be, life will be easier further. So PNR number, reservation status, what else we want to pass? Travel date, I think. Travel date equal to status dot travel date, then reservation status, done. Then 2 things additional we are passing for everything. One is response code, one is response message. So I will say response code 1 and response message something equal to success. And here I will say response code 02 and I will say uh, failed while filtering PNR based data. So you will get some idea that acha, is it something like I passed some wrong format of input. Okay. Else part you can say something like PNR number not found, because then only it will be null. Na? So 03, I'll say PNR number not found. That's why I took those two parameters, so that if nothing is coming, at least these two things will definitely come. Either success will come, or maybe some PNR number not found come, or some exception happened for which it has not come, something like that. Okay. Some exception failed while filtering the PNR number. Over, that means your repository layer, model layer, context things, DB set, everything done. Only thing is we have not yet migrated. So anything we missed before migration, we'll build once, and we'll make this as default project and then migrate it. So make it as a default project and go to your NuGet package manager console, and here also make sure that your repository is the default project, and here you go and say add migration. So migration document, already you can see it automatically prepare migration code. Now you say update database. One is for virtual DB creation, one is for SQL Server DB creation. So now here you go and refresh it. I think I started with web API underscore, right? So let's go to HTML end and see whether at least one, what is that? Web API underscore this. Yeah, one table should have been created. So let's put some example data and then test it. Just putting some example data. Alright, now let's go there to the web API and build it once more. Then revert your default project. Now think about your, I'll just close all the tabs. We have done almost everything. So I will focusively go to controller side, right? As of now, repository model, everything we have done, right? But as of now, we have not done anything from controller. This class one I will delete. I don't need it. That's the default class. Go to program. Also go to create a new controller. So right click, add controller. Go here to API. Okay. Under API, you will see something called API controller. Then add it. Because application controller and API controller both are two different things. So go here and give the name as controller. What should be there, so keep it as it is. Before that, whatever it is there, delete it and write your own API controller name. So my API controller name is suppose a reservation, RESERV, reserve service. Okay, reserve service controller. Now put that reserve service controller as the default controller in the program.cs as usual. In fact, it is API, so no need, not necessary. Now here you can see two things additional you get here, and line number 8 also you can see, instead of inheriting from controller, it is inheriting from controller base. Okay, these are two things you have to see new here comparing to your MVC controller. So in MVC controller, routing was not there. Routing was there internally, but not mandatory to mention it. But here it suggests to mention it. Even API controller also, it gives the attribute. Assuming that, acha, hey, it is not a general controller, man, it is API controller, that it is giving the attribute. So whichever attribute you see, these are all inbuilt classes basically. Okay, so controller base is the one which needs to be inherited, and if you go to controller base, it will not be as exactly as your controller. Controller will be having those functionality, those properties, those variables which is necessary for your view based application, right? But API never have any view, right? API is just a programming interface. So view related, all the support property, variable, classes, functions, those things must have been removed from here, and only programming interface related things must have been included here. And telling little about this routing, whenever you will finish this web API and deploy, okay, finally what you are going to get, you are going to get one endpoint URL, right? If you see our drawing that, you know, last class we discussed, so I have written something called endpoint URL. Endpoint URL is that URL which is generated here after deploying it. Okay, but currently we have not deployed anything. We are running both in the local only, so it will be localhost, http colon double slash maybe localhost colon some port number slash something whatever. So in that whole URL, what will be the pattern that is told by this route? So it is saying general pattern, whatever you get as per application architecture, you get it up to localhost colon port number. Imagine localhost colon 1212 for example. So after 1212, that port number, what is supposed to be done, that is what will be mentioned here always. So it is saying first you mention slash API, after that put slash controller. That means if your actual URL will be like this, going here, I will close all these things. This is our notepad. I will save it as web API, or maybe we have discussed already in one notepad last class. So why not I will open that web API itself. No, it's not there. Okay, I'll save it as web API. So endpoint URL format will be like this. HTTP colon double slash. It may be HTTPS also. Totally up to you as per your system. If you have already activated SSL, then it will HTTPS colon double slash. What is the first part? Localhost. Why? Because you have not yet hosted, right? As long as you are not hosting it, it will be localhost because you are running in the debug mode in a local computer. Colon whatever port number, suppose 1212 for example. Okay, slash. API word will come. Imagine somebody will say, no, 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 everybody gives API, why should I give API? I will give it like RES service. Absolutely fine, who cares? Here you can go and say, instead of API you change it to RES service. Got it? Then comes controller as per the routing. So API slash controller, except that controller word, whatever comes that you take. Imagine this much it comes, then that much will come there. You don't need to think much, just I'm making you understand. Automatically generate endpoint URL, I will show you there. So then go for slash. Here there is something called action method, which is optional actually. Action method, usually we name it as action. Why optional? I will tell you. Imagine your controller is having only one method. Currently see this controller, there is no method at all, right? Maybe I will create one method just like this, public response info, RESPONSE info control dot. Acha, we have not added the reference, so that also you have to do. MVC should get the reference of the repository layer, na? We have forgotten that. Rebuild once and add that reference here as well, because ultimately you have to call the function of repository in the controller. So go to controller area, dependency, and add the project reference and click it and say okay. Otherwise it cannot take the reference, right? So done. Build once more. Every activity never hesitate to build once, because the development will go smooth, right? You run it, it is not working, punch error, 10 exception, why should you go for those? Just build it so that everywhere it will be updated and then plan. So here you go, I will say public response info control dot, take this, and I will say get status or get PNR status, within bracket I will say string, maybe PNR. Okay, if you want to get all the data, then this is not required. If you want to get PNR number specific data, then this is required. Like that you did here, right? So first what I will do, just to show you in the browser itself without using Postman, because as of now we have not covered Postman testing. So I will take one function which will not take in input parameter. Okay, first I will show you through browser without any input parameter. Then I will say take some input parameter through Postman and I'll show you. So I have one function called, suppose, public response info, and here I will say list of response info, right? Because if you want all the data, then it will be list of response info. If you want to get only one object, then it will be response info. Then I will say get all reservation data. Okay, maybe it will be consumed by internal organization, this will consume by external organization, it's okay. So I said here just return one object by preparing it, this lst equal to new this, and return this, return lst, and here also I will do the same, but instead of list I will say only response object. RESP and here RESP. Okay, now I'll put one more function here in the repository also. What is that? Oh, something missing. Sorry. Okay, so go here and put one more method which will give you all the data. Suppose copy paste it and make it as a list of response info, and this will not take input parameter, and this is get all PNR status, not all PNR status. I will say get all, same name I will give here, get PNR status, get all reservation data. Okay, so get all reservation data, and here I will say list of response, and here I will say directly you pass this one. Inside this I will say where simply all means dot to list you can do without any lambda expression, and that you pass directly through this. Here I will say list of response. Instead of this I will say list of railway reservation. If I want to pass everything, then why should I go for response info? I will go for this also. Okay, this one. And here also I will go for that one, because I want all the data, not filtered data. So that's it. Now no need for all these things. You can say simply return status. Status response RESP. Alright, simple one. Just fetch all the data and return back. So I have two functions now. Now tell me if I will not give any action method here. Okay, intentionally why I created two methods is because I want to tell this action. Imagine I am not writing this. Okay, only if I have one function, then it may understand, no problem. I didn't have any other function also in the controller. It will say if you are not giving any action method also, I will understand this. Absolutely fine. But if you have two functions, then we are bound to give action also. Okay. Now coming to HTTP get, HTTP post. Now you have two functions, but both are HTTP get, right? If you clearly understand, it is only giving the data from the server to the browser, don't you think? Does it take anything to post to the server? Nothing. It is something get operation. So here you are giving HTTP get. There also you are giving HTTP get. At least if one is HTTP get, one is HTTP post, then also you can understand that okay, both are not similar function. But both are HTTP get this time also. So in such situation, sorry, HTTP get only. In such situation, it's a good practice always to include the action in the routing. If you want to include action in the routing, then you have to do like this, /action. Okay, that means you already mentioned in the above that why in this format of the endpoint URL will be first is domain name. Domain name means localhost colon something. In our case, up to this it is called domain name. Okay. After domain name, put API. Little bit I will give gap for your understanding. So this is domain name. domain, and this is called child URL. Domain also called parent URL. Okay. So parent URL along with child URL both is called full URL or endpoint URL. So endpoint URL will be divided into two parts. One is parent URL, one is child URL. Parent URL will be only domain name. Child URL will be whatever routing you define. So you said my things is like this. So in our case it will be like this. My action method name is get all reservation data. So it will be like this. But when your controller have only and only one function, or maybe one HTTP GET and one HTTP POST, not multiple HTTP GET or multiple HTTP POST. In that case, it is optional to provide your service method routing. But safer side is you provide always now. What is big deal? If you have one function also it will work. If you have multiple function also it will work. But since it is optional, that's why the moment you create the controller, it doesn't give these things automatically. It says up to controller also if you are writing, fair enough. Okay. This is one thing. Another thing, suppose somebody says, no, I will not mention routing here. If you are mentioning routing here, then you have to say action only, controller only, isn't it? Somebody says, no, my actual action method is get all reservation data, but in my endpoint URL, I want to keep something security. From security protocol point of view, I don't want to inform anybody about name of my action. Why should outsiders will know name of my action? They should know XYZ, but actually is ABC. In that case, also this can be ignored. How to do that then? Here you have to give route. Okay. And here within double quote, you have to give that one. How? Now action method label routing I want. Suppose imagine actual method name is get all reservation data, but you want to secretly tell it as GAR, for example. Absolutely fine. XYZ you give, nobody cares. Now endpoint URL will not reflect your actual action method name. Endpoint URL will be this time API / reservation service / XYZ. Okay. Or sometimes people what they do in real time project, they will not give unknown name like XYZ or ABC. They will not give exact name like action method name, but they will give something differently, which is meaningful also, but not same name also. Just like fetch reservation info. Fetch reservation info. This is also giving same meaning, but actual name is different. Security point of view. Okay. So three things I said. If only and only one function is contained inside the controller, no need for here also routing, no need for here also routing for action method. Point number one. Point number two, if multiple methods are there and you want to maintain the routing in the controller level, then directly write here /controller /action. That indicates whatever action method name, that will be part of endpoint URL. That means little insecure but clearly visible. Second. Third, I said if you want full routing path but little secret you want to maintain the method label or action method label, then you give routing in the action method level routing, don't give in the controller level routing, and in action method level routing you have full freedom of maintaining your own routing name, which is one nickname for your action method name. Now let's plan it this way, which is by default provided. So assume that I don't have even second method, I have only one method, then this is also enough, don't you think? As long as your controller is having only one method, this is the required thing. So no need to even give the action method name. So no need to, if you are not giving action method name, then over na. Why should somebody see name of the action in the URL? URL doesn't contain anything. So this is the case where your controller contains only one action method, and no need to give in the controller level routing, no need to give in the action method level routing. But API slash controller name, that is must. But yes, you can change the name of API. Square bracket something means it's a keyword. But this is not a keyword, it is just anything. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H also I can do, no problem. Then your URL will be containing that also. Okay, if you understood all these rules and regulations, you can easily tell me, in this case, now if I want to call this function, in this case, now if I want to call this function, what will be my full URL? Yeah, don't you think this much is enough? Because only and only one method, na? So why should I give the action method name? Only when at least two methods are there, then I have to bother about the action method name. So this is fine. That means even this can help me to access that web API. So test it. Let's build it once. If anything syntactical or anything error, it will come out. If all good, then run it simply. It will give you a default view. After that, in another tab, you can test it also. So run it. It not necessarily it will come to your reservation service, because it is not application architecture, right? It is service oriented architecture. So service oriented architecture will provide you a default view. This is the default view. Can you see something called hot reload? It provides, that will be the default view. Once the default view came, then you have to prepare, you just create one more tab, and whatever endpoint URL you have prepared, that you have to call it. So let it come. We don't bother about it. It is just default view. Now come to another tab. Don't close that tab. Keep it open and then put the whatever your action method with the endpoint URL. So go here and put a breakpoint just to see whether it is coming here or not. Where is our browser? This is the one. Just press enter. It is saying something. Acha, HTTPS. I have hard coded something, right? So I have to change that. So let me change that to our, auto generated, what do you say, domain name. So come here, I will replace with our auto generated domain name. It's a double slash. Take this and try now. This one I have taken as an example, huh? This is not real. So actually it's this one. Okay. After running only, you will see the actual port number. So why this port number facility? Because in one system you can run multiple APIs, multiple functions. That's why port number is there. Now let's go to our browser and try it out. So did I copy this whole thing? Go to the browser, close this tab, create a new tab, press tag and press enter. Can you see it came here. If you want to pass from browser some input parameter also, I will tell you the process. You can try. So that is question mark something, we say it as query string. So now I have not called that function here, but yeah, control is coming here, that is important for us. If I will call that function, that also will come here, reservation status. So let me quickly call that function so that at least one flow we can complete it. So should I say lst equal to, what is that? One repository object you have to create quickly here. Repository object is this one. interface name reference equal to instance of the repository class, right? So repo equal to new repository class name. So I have to call that function with the help of repo object. So repo dot get PNR status is one, get PNR status, which one is the actual one? Let me check. So get all reservation data is the actual one, right? So get all reservation data. I think I have not put that in the interface. So I have to put that in the interface. Then only abstraction will happen. Otherwise it will say you don't have permission. So come here and put the other function as well. Okay. Now build once. And then put a breakpoint here and run it again. So it will take you to the default view, doesn't matter, because web API will never have any view, remember. View folder at all will not see. So they have created one default view just for testing purpose. So it will take to the default view and then prepare your own tab and call your own URL. So today I showed you how to test it from the browser, but I will tell you how to test it from Postman, because for HTTP GET function you can test it directly from browser. For HTTP POST and all you have to go for Postman. So go here, F10, F10, F10. I'm not going to browse, repository, directly pressing F10. Let's see if any exception. Count 3 came. Okay, continue. At least in testing window, it will give you JSON value, isn't it? It will give you JSON value because this is not actual application. Na? This application has to be consumed by some other application. So this is API application. So it will not give you like table or anything. It will just give you JSON data, what your web API is going to return. So this is the JSON format you can see. If you compare same data XML format, it will be 3 to 4 times more memory consumption in XML. That's why this is UTF-8 lightweight format. So this is tested. That means at least your HTTP GET function is working. After that, if you want to put next class when we will join, we are getting a little late. So next class when we will join, we will first test with parameterized function in HTTP GET. Then I will show you HTTP POST function also, and that too through some other way we say it as Postman.